This short video can be considered a kind of part 2 to the previous video where I described some of the hints to Hanukkah miracle in the book of Psalms. I want to discuss also the prophet Hagai. He was one of the so-called minor prophets, meaning 12 shorter prophets that are all traditionally were written in one scroll. That's why they call it Trei Asar. In Aramaic means 12. The 12 shorter prophets, in order not to lose, if each one would be written on a separate scroll, they would simply be lost easily. So instead, they were all written on one long scroll, and they start with Hagai, Hosea. Hosea is the first of those 12, and the last three are Hagai, Zachariah, and Malachi. They're the only ones who were prophesying in the times of the Second Temple already. There were other prophets in the times of Second Temple, but they are not recorded in the book of. They don't have books in the book of prophets. Some of them are in the books of Ketuvim, like Ezra and Nehemiah. But in the books of prophets, we only have three prophets that lived in the Second Temple time, in the very beginning of Second Temple time, and that is Hagai, Zechariah, and Malachi. And Hagai is the shortest of them all. It's really one of the shortest prophets. Shorter than that is maybe just Ovadia. Hagai has just 2 chapters, and the main theme of Hagai is only the rebuilding of a Second Temple. And what's interesting about Hagai is he always mentions on which day of which month which prophecy came to him. And there are 3 main dates in the prophet Hagai, which I think is very interesting. All 3 dates are very important. Almost all the prophecies of Hagai have to do with that soon there will be a temple and the preparing the Kohanim, the priests, to serve in the temple, checking them if they know the laws of Tahara and things like that. So one prophecy was in the time when we usually try to start doing tshuva, the Sephardim start saying slichot, and the Ashkenazim start blowing the shofar. That is a month before Rosh Hashanah, in the beginning of Elul. Another prophecy of Hagai was on the day that we call Hoshana Rabbah. It wasn't called Hoshana Rabbah yet, but it's the last day of Sukkot, when the whole procedure apparently of with the ravot, with the willow branches, is related to what is hinted in Hagai, and that's why Chazal called it a Yesod Nevi'im or a Minhag Nevi'im, that it's a custom based on prophets. This shaking or beating the willow branches probably hints to what Hagai saw on that day, that soon Hashem says, soon I'll shake everything, I'll shake the heavens and earth, that the redemption and the new temple will come soon. And then another major prophecy when Hagai is testing Kohanim and preparing them to serve in the new temple is when? The day before future Hanukkah. Now Hagai lived a couple hundred years before Hanukkah miracle. Maybe. There's actually a dispute about the exact Jewish chronology, and depending on how long the Second Temple stood, it may have been even longer. But at any rate, Hagai was long before the Hanukkah miracle. But in terms of the dates of the year, it was on the 24th day of the month of Kislev. So it's very interesting, right? Specifically, the laws of Tahara, he was actually checking them with the laws of purity and impurity. And that's exactly the oil that later Kohanim found, of course. The 25th of Kislev is beginning of Hanukkah, when they found the only remaining kosher, clean, ritually clean oil that they could light for the Hanukkah. So apparently the day before Hanukkah was the test of Kohanim for something that would happen years later on Hanukkah, and that is when they will be guarding the ritual purity and doing the temple service, doing everything according to the law. So I think that this is not a coincidence. Ben Ish Chai actually says to read this parsha the day before Hanukkah, since that's when it happened. But he doesn't go a step further to say that actually there's more than that. Maybe he does, but not in the laws of Hanukkah in Ben Ish Chai. Maybe he says it somewhere else. But the idea seems to be pretty intuitive. That once you already understand that the passage has so many hints to the Hanukkah miracle, and we read it on the day before Hanukkah, if we want to read it on the day when it was revealed to Hagai, then I think that it is in fact hinting to Hanukkah. And like I said, Hagai is almost the only prophet that's so careful to always preserve on which dates which prophecy was revealed to him. I don't know any other prophet that preserves so many dates. Hagai, that is so short, it's just a couple of chapters. None of them, by the way, were chosen for any of the Haftorot. It's interesting, when Haftorot were chosen, we have a lot of Haftorot from Sefer Melachim and Sefer Yeshayahu, for instance, and no Haftorah at all from Hagai. Now, it's not a big surprise. Hagai is very short. It's just a couple of chapters. There are other prophets that there's no Haftorot from. There's no Haftorah, for instance, from Tzefania. But there are a number of Haftarot from Malachi, a couple of Haftarot. So basically, most of Malachi, which only has 3 chapters, most of it ended up in some Haftarah. One Haftarah that we read is actually just recently from Malachi. We would be reading a Haftarah to Parsha Toldot. This year we didn't do it because it was the day before Rosh Chodesh, but normally we would read from Malachi. And then another Haftarah from Malachi. Most congregations read the Shabbat before Pesach. But Hagai, that is almost the same length as Malachi and has no Haftarah at all. So it's rare that people study the words of Hagai. If it's not in Haftarah, and very few people study the prophets in our day, most people study just the Talmud and the Chumash. But really, Hagai is a prophet who apparently recorded and hinted to a number of important issues, including the Hanukah miracle. And if you like this video, please press like.